Thanks for joining us here on The Pulse this afternoon. Ghana's Catholic Bishop Conference has released a public statement to the press backing the passage of the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill as Parliament reconvenes on the consideration of the anti-gay bill today. The passage of that bill has been generating a heated debate on the floor of the House, with sponsors of that bill, in terms of MPs, accusing some of their colleague MPs of undermining the legislation which will criminalize same-sex activities in Ghana. Well, Kweku Asante is our parliamentary correspondent. He's been monitoring all of that for us, joins us live from the House. And Kweku, let's first of all start off from this latest concern we're getting from the Catholic Bishops' Conference. What are some of the details of the statement we're receiving?
After so many months of waiting, the Proper Family Value Bill has finally had its time on the floor. The Speaker of Parliament ruled that despite the chairman being absent, members could move the amendments that were tabled in his name on behalf of his committee.
The understanding is that in the absence of the chairman, any member of the committee could take up if the chairman is available, he will lead us. In the absence of the chairman, any member could take up the matter.
Following this ruling, members on both sides came around the table and discussed some amendments that have been proposed.
Amendment proposed. Paragraph A, subparagraph 6, delete. Mr. Speaker, the reason for the deletion is that queer is an umbrella term used for people who are not heterosexuals, who are not cisgender.
Put the question. All those in favor of the deletion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
But not without some controversies. The majority chief whip came in and argued that some agreements with the minority leadership had been breached in terms of the order of business on the floor of the House.
My colleague, my respected colleague, Honorable Sam John, was here. We are engaged. Yeah, but I just want us to get one thing clear. When we spoke, when you came here, we spoke, we agreed on the chronology of the flow of activities or business. We said, we finished the question. When we finish the question, we have motions. We have 3 motions. And then we'll conclude with the consideration of the Proper Human Rights Bill. Because, Speaker, with respect, the majority leader had said that the special budgets and the Constitutional and Legal Committee needed him to be there for some consideration. So I thought, because I'm very interested in this bill, also want to be here. And the majority leader has said that he wants to sit in whilst we are doing the consideration.
The understanding we had between the majority and the minority and your good self was that after we are done with the questions, we will start the consideration of Ghanaian values and what's the full name of that bill? The Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Value Bill 2021. That was the understanding.
Well, the Speaker of Parliament overruled him and the business continued.
You simply guide me. I'm not a robot. It doesn't mean that when you guide me, I must, by order, go by your guidance.
At some point, they had to haggle over whether or not to delete the word proper from the rendition of the title of the bill.
I believe that whatever this House will pass will be considered as the objective test in Ghana. And so if we are dropping proper, whatever this House will pass is known as a proper law anyway. So if we drop proper, once it becomes an act of parliament, it is the proper law in Ghana. So we do not necessarily have to have it in defining human sexual rights.
So the word proper be consequentially deleted throughout the bill. So it doesn't say proper human sexual rights.
Because the Constitution does not mandate a private member's bill that impose a charge on the consolidated fund, majority leader. The consideration stage of the bill now underway. Very soon, we can expect that this bill will move to the 3rd reading stage and could be passed. And if all that we've seen today on the floor is anything to go by, it means the Speaker of Parliament's promise that this bill could be passed before the House went on Christmas break could actually be realized. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, the latest we're getting on this is that the Ghana Catholic Bishop Conference has released a statement giving its full backing to the passage of this bill. We can bring you excerpts of which you see on the screens right now, indicating that of course, this connection, we can quote state that the draft bill on the promotion of proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill currently in Parliament is in the right direction. It seeks to enact laws against criminal homosexual acts. The bill aims to provide for proper human sexual rights and also Ghanaian family values and also prescribe LGBTQ+ and related activities, as well as provide the protection for children and persons who are victims or accused of the activities of the LGBTQ community. And they wrap up by saying the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with every Ghanaian. And, of course, that statement is signed by the President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, Reverend Matthew Kweku Jamefi. And, of course, Kweku Asante is joining me now via Zoom. Kweku, we know that this is supposed to be considered on the floor of the House shortly. What are we to expect today?
The bill is still at the consideration stage currently in the House. In fact, on Friday, the House began that consideration even without the chairman of the Constitutional, Parliamentary and Legal Affairs Committee. And the expectation is that they will continue today. As of today, no work has been done on the bill so far, but it's still on the other paper, and the expectation is that that will be done. In fact, Sam George is still on the floor. A lot of the sponsors are still here. And if the Speaker of Parliament is to stay true to the promise he made, that this bill will be passed before the House adjourns for Christmas break in December or on December 2022, then the House will have to do some more work on this now. This new message that has come from the Catholic Bishop Conference obviously is going to bolster Parliament and the sponsors to try and push this through, because clearly the pastors and the economical community in the country clearly say that this is something that they are backing. They say the state has the power to do so. And if you clearly read from the passage or the statement that has been put out by the Catholic Bishop Conference, which is really having come up strongly within the presence of Parliament. And I'm sure today, when the consideration stage takes off again, this will be referenced as one of the reasons why Parliament must do this. So, Blessed, we are waiting for this item that is prominent on the agenda today to be taken, so that the family, the proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill will continue on at the consideration stage. The cross-by-cross consideration will continue up until they finish the movie to third reading.
Kweku Asante is in Parliament for us, and the world is just reeling from the celebration of International Human Rights Day, with the Commission of Shraj meeting CSOs and other stakeholders in that space. Today, Joseph Whittal says his outfit has grave concerns about the anti-LGBT bill, which has passed the consideration stage in Parliament. He's been speaking to the press a while ago.
Pick my source from the Universal Periodic Review report 2022. Ghana came up very well recommended in terms of what Ghana has done in promoting and protecting human rights at the Human Rights Council. But the peers of Ghana have also indicated to Ghana areas of concern that they think Ghana should work on. And some of those areas are part of what we have discussed today. What is the view of Shraj on that? The view of Shraj has been captured by in our memorandum to Parliament, and it's on the net. We have raised very pertinent concerns of the constitutionality of some of the provisions and clauses of the bill. I see from the beginning of the discussions on the consideration stage that our concerns, some of them are even beginning to be addressed. But the key ones that relate to freedom of expression, the right not to sympathize with any person who professes that type of orientation, and some institutions having to undertake some education on the bill when it becomes law, we think it's quite problematic. Because you can't ask the CHRAJ, which is supposed to promote and protect the rights of all persons, to particularly indicate or advocate or train or educate people only on aspects of the provisions of that bill. You can't do that. Two, you can ask the courts to give their judgment in a certain direction. But I think all these things would be addressed. Fortunately, the Commission is in good standing with some of the provisions which the Attorney General also provided to Parliament. I mean, and Parliament seems to be agreeable to those amendments. I hope as the consideration stage goes on, we will see our concerns being addressed.
Well, it's a good time to bring in Genevieve Bartington, who's the country director for Amnesty International, a human rights organization, pushing for a wide range of issues, not just on the anti-LGBTQ. In fact, they were part of the deliberations on human rights today when the CHRAJ boss, of course, made that engagement. Genevieve, it's good to be talking to you at this time. Let's start off from the concerns CHRAJ is now raising with our anti-LGBTQ bill, the concerns about unfair treatment and also gagging some state institutions. These are concerns you equally share, I believe.
Of course. Again, thank you for having me. Yes, as you are aware, we are celebrating Human Rights Day. It was celebrated yesterday, and it's 75 years since the institutionalization of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So yes, I know that Parliament is seriously deliberating on issues that really concern minority populations or vulnerable groups, and this will definitely affect human rights of specific groups of people. And absolutely, I agree with the commissioner of CHRAJ that gagging certain institutions would be what would happen in terms of our mandate. CHRAJ, for example, cannot exclude a specific group of people, as it's supposed to be fighting for the human rights of everyone, regardless of sex, sexual orientation, gender, religion, disability, or not. So it's going to be actually very problematic should this bill be passed. It's going to be very problematic for some of us, especially the CSOs that do a lot of work within this sector, to be able to reach out to these vulnerable communities. It's going to be a huge work for UNAIDS, for example. Already having access to health is a crucial issue for vulnerable communities such as the LGBTI. They try and get access to health facilities, and it's a problem because of the stigma sometimes. I must say Ghana is, relatively, to some extent, a safer place than other countries who are completely against the LGBTI community. But a lot of work has to be done. And as we celebrate Human Rights Day, there are other bills in Parliament that I wish to speak about. That is the Affirmative Action Bill, which we are happy that the Speaker of Parliament has given a certificate of urgency to, and has assured us that it will receive the attention it needs.
In fact, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that, and also, for instance, the witchcraft accusation bill, which is also a critical piece of document that we need to look at. But just to close the chapter on this anti-LGBT issue, the question about trying to engage Parliament once more, because if CHRAJ is raising the concern, it goes to the heart of the matter that most of you in the CSO space, those fighting for human rights, still have concerns about the piece of legislation. Don't you feel that you have another opportunity, at least, to engage Parliament, and to try and make a case? What's been that difficulty in just trying to engage?
So we've already presented a memo to Parliament, just like what Attorney General's office has done. CHRAJ has done that. Amnesty International has also presented a memo to Parliament. We will be doing that again, reiterating why this bill shouldn't be passed. there are so many articles in the bill that are very problematic, and it doesn't necessarily, everyone should be concerned about this bill. It targets allies. And when I say allies, it targets you and me. That means if you associate yourself with someone who is part of that community, you can go to jail. If you, if you are a landlord, perhaps, and you have persons who are suspected of LGBTI activity, you can go to jail if you don't report them. It's going to push people out on the streets. There are already forced evictions happening because persons are suspecting that persons are part of the LGBTI community. Forced evictions are happening, human rights abuses, physical assault. These cases are being reported on a daily basis to the Ghana police and to some of us CSOs that monitor these activities, like the CDD Ghana. So it's actually happening. Maybe the media doesn't necessarily cover it totally, but these things are happening now just because of the bill being in Parliament. So it's going to be worse once the bill is passed. And I feel like we really need to understand that we are all human beings, regardless, and we deserve the same rights. We deserve to be treated equally, regardless of our sexual orientation, sex, gender, or disability. So this is something that we need to do a lot of public education on. And Ghana joining the Human Rights Council, we have to understand that we are a pedestal and we need to uphold certain values of international human rights law. Thank you.
I see. Let's now move on, talk about, the broad spectrum of human rights, activities here in Ghana. Of course, we're just moving out of that celebration over the weekend for international human rights. The question as to how the country generally is faring, and this is an area that Amnesty International has been focused on, looking at the broad-based issues of human rights in Ghana. How are we faring as a country?
Well, right now, I feel like Ghana is like a yo-yo when it comes to human rights. It's one step forward, one step back. We make promises and then we go back on them. I'll give you an example. The Parliament voted in favor of the witchcraft accusations bill, and then now the president did not assent to the bill. We're still waiting on the president to present a memo to the Speaker of Parliament to tell us exactly why. Details, not just the letter that he sent to the Speaker of Parliament, details specifying what exactly is the challenge with the bill. We'll talk about the death penalty as well. For the death penalty bill, there were two amendments of the Criminal Offences Act and amendment of the Armed Forces Act. So the president only assented to the amendment of the Criminal Offences Act, but he did not sign into law the Armed Forces Act, which is the same challenge that the witchcraft accusations bill is facing currently. So I know this was not really, publicized much, but this is the problem we are facing currently. And, we need to understand what exactly is going on with these bills. And then we look at the affirmative action bill, which has been in Parliament since 2011. We're not just celebrating Human Rights Day. Human Rights Day was the climax of activities for 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And the theme for that particular, campaign is invest to prevent violence against women and girls. That means more action needs to be taken by Ghana to ensure that women in all their diversity live free of violence and coercion. How do we do that? We need to pass the affirmative action bill. And this is something that, like I said previously, that the Speaker of Parliament said they'll definitely ensure that, strides are made on this bill.
But it's always been a challenge, talking about that bill, which has spanned the life of many parliaments. The point about whether or not women should bring their seats to the table or we create a space for them. That's been the very sharply divided debate that's always confronted this bill. Where should we be starting off from? Legislation or trying to push much more women into positions of influence and power?
Both, because the thing is, in order to push women into decision-making roles, into positions of power, you need to do capacity building. You need to empower women. What challenges are women facing that they aren't able to step forward and take these roles? You'll hear recently that for the first time, University of Development Studies has a female SRC president, for example. When you look at even our senior high schools, when you hear who is the head prefect, it's a boy. Who is the head prefect? It's a boy. Rarely would you find a head prefect being a girl, of course, unless it's a girls' school. These are some of the things we need to start in our society, doing this social behavioral change within our society to empower women and build their confidence so that they know that they can stand for these positions. Also, the bill is not suggesting that we just put women into decision-making roles without the capacity. The women that we are talking about will have the capacity, and it will be quality women that will be put in these roles. So there's just a percentage, 30% that we are requesting that women are put into a minimum, are put into decision-making roles. And I could say for a fact that there have been several discussions with the prominent political parties on how best we can do that. So there's a consultative discussion going on.
I see. Just to point out also that the local level elections are coming up. You expect more women to be a part of it, I guess.
I hope. And this is something we need. It's all about women's participation. What are we doing as CSOs, for example, to push women to stand? All this is not just about confidence building. It's also about funding, resources. Do these women have the money to stand for these positions? So there's a lot to be done in that aspect. And I know several CSOs and political parties are working on this particular area.
Okay, let's wrap up with my space. I'm a journalist, and of course I should be concerned about the space. The last report issued by Reporters Without Borders raising concerns about free speech and the crackdown on those in the press. From your assessment, has that trajectory changed, and how should we be working as a country to improve that area?
Yes, so in terms of freedom of expression, especially with our media, there have actually been, these are statistics by Media Foundation for West Africa. There has been an significant increase on attacks on journalists, abusing their human rights within this period of governance. And I hear it was lower during Mahama's period of governance. So this is something that we need to really look at. Why has it increased? Why do security forces feel that they can attack journalists? And what are we also doing as a people to protect our journalists? I've heard several stories of where journalists have been attacked, tried to take matters into court, or to get the police to do something about it, and nothing was done. So how are we protecting our journalists? What more can we do? So, the research, the evidence-based research, exposing these attacks is one thing that we need to continue doing. I know the media is very good on that. We need to continue gathering evidence, and we need to name and shame. The authorities that are doing this, we need to call them out, and they need to face repercussions.
Well, on this, I'll just say journalism is not a crime, but I'm grateful for spending some time with us. Jennifer Partington, Country Director, Amnesty International.